fully aware that there are two kinds of people. One, the person that is so ecstatic about live sales, loving that this is a part of the reseller opportunity and wants nothing more than to do live sales and get in on the hype. Then the second person absolutely despises sales. So if you are someone who has been super interested in wanting to do your first live sale, or maybe have done a few live sales, but you feel like there's still a couple aspects to it that you could really learn a little bit about, stick around because this is going to be the video for you. I'm going to go into some very simple and basic tips on how to run a very successful live sale. But if you hate live sales, don't hate this video, please. You can stick around, you can watch it. And in fact, I would love to even get your opinions down below about maybe why you don't like live sales. And I would love to be able to have a conversation with you in that way. But I did need to create this video because I know there are many people that I'm getting questions on a regular basis on my Instagram, as well as in my Posh shows and whatnot shows, that I've been asking questions. So let's get into the video on the tips and tricks that I have for you guys when it comes to getting ready for a live sale and also the shipping afterwards. I'm gonna be taking some notes from what I have seen off of the blog that Poshmark had put out. But before we get started with the tips that they have added there, we gotta take a step backwards and talk about what sort of inventory are you going to put in your show. And I should also side note, I will do a separate video about how to do a whatnot show. Some of it is gonna bleed a little bit together, but there are differences in both platforms. So I don't want this to get confusing and throw a lot of information at you. If you just wanna be on Posh shows, we're talking about that today. If you just want to be on whatnot, we'll talk about that a different day. Also, unicorn is in the mix because live sales have taken over my life and the house might get a little messier than I like on a regular basis. But I digress. We are going to talk first and foremost about the items that you are choosing for your show. So every Poshmark show has a maximum of 50 items that you can put in the show. We'll go into details about how to input those in, but first and foremost, you got to figure out what inventory it is going to be. So are you grabbing new inventory? Is never hit your closet before? Or are you pulling items that have been in your closet for a while? This is going to be very important because people are going to want to see, at least hypothetically, majority of the time, they want to see what the item looks like. They want to see what the garment, how it stretches. Is there any flaws? How does it look up close? There's a lot of variations that you don't necessarily get to see in a photo. So having the item ready and hung up is one of the best ways that I have found when it comes to running a show. There has been other times that we haven't had everything hung up. Our example of us at popping up in a hotel room and clearly not having a bunch of hangers that we could hang up every piece. But the two things I would say as a great supply is, number one, using a number system. There's two different methods that we've used a numbering system. Coat, like little hanger numbers. There's also a lot of variations of numbers on Amazon that you can take a look at. The numbered hangers that we...
Wait, what?
Not the numbered hangers. The number system that we have, it was 1 through 500, which is pretty nice when we're running multiple sales. And it was actually intended for if people are like handing you coats and then you put it on a specific hanger and you give them the tear of the number that they received. Those are the numbers that we use. I liked that because it went 1 to 500, whereas most numbers that I've seen online is just like 1 to 100. Because the amount of shows we're running regularly, it is kind of nice just to find 50 numbers that are in order, and then I can just throw those into a show. The other system that I use is clothespins, and we've actually written on the clothespin a number. We keep that in order. So when we're working with shoes, when we're working with purses, or any other sort of hard goods, we can clothespin the item. Or as I mentioned earlier, when we did a pop-up in a hotel room and we did not have a bunch of hangers and we also needed to transport it back home, the clothing, we just clothespinned each single item with a number. It makes it really easy. I promise you, you need to listen to this. It makes the shipping faster. There's still a lot of steps to shipping, but it does make it faster. So the next thing we're gonna talk about, I'm gonna go back to the blog post, and that is the pre-show, how to prepare for a show. So you're gonna wanna have a cover photo ready to go because you cannot schedule a show unless you have a photo ready to do the publishing of this show. The other thing you can do is, how long is the show gonna be? Now, don't worry, if you put that it's gonna be like 1 hour and you end up going for an hour and a half, they're not gonna kick you out once you've like gone over in time. But what it will do is set a estimate. So if someone goes into the Posh show viewing of like all the shows that are running, it typically will say, hey, the show has 30 more minutes left. So you want to try to have a good average. For me, if I did a full 50-piece show, it's going to be about 2 hours for me to get through everything. A little bit of socialization through the shows, maybe running a little more items at the end, but typically it's about 2 hours. That's just kind of a good estimate for me. If you want to make that a little longer, you can absolutely, but that is something that you'll need to know, and you can always update that later. Don't worry, the minute you hit publish, it's not like it's the end of the world. You can make changes to your show. You just want to make sure you get it published as soon as possible so people can start bookmarking your show. So in doing the scheduling, you are going to go into My Seller Tools. Now, if you have not had access to Posh shows yet, you will not have this feature. You do need to get on a wait list. From what I understand, the wait list link was removed because people said that there was such a backlog. So I don't know necessarily true or not anymore. If I do find out more information before this video goes live, I will put it in the description below, if not on the screen as well, if there's an email or something that you have to go to. But from what I understand right now, there is no link. Once you do get the training in, you should have access to this tool in your seller tools. You'll go to My Seller Tools, like this tool icon in the closet, click to the right, and then go to the My Posh Show section. If you have no shows created yet, you're gonna go to create a show, and then that's where you're gonna put in your cover shot, what's the title of your show, and then the duration of your show, and then obviously like the date as well. Can you do more than one show in a day? Yes. Can you run your show all day long? Yes. Can you run a show without selling anything? Yes. And now these are some of the things that in comparison to Whatnot, I don't like at all. I think that Poshmark needs to make a better statement in regards to those things. But as of right now, in November of 2022, those are the things that are in place and that Poshmark is willing to accept when it comes to running a Posh show. Also, let's talk about this one too, because Poshmark needs to make a statement about this as well. Silent auctions. How do we feel about them? Personally, for me, if I think about the customer for a second, because the very first show that I had seen was silent auctions, let me preface by explaining what a silent auction is. Someone decided, and I guess there must have been some sort of glitch one day, so someone was running a show and the screen went black. So you couldn't see anything, you couldn't hear anything, but people wanted to continue on with their show. And so they continued to pin items in the show so people could bid on them. But now there was no interaction between the person who was hosting the show and then the customers who were watching the show. That kind of breathed a new idea of the people going, hey, I don't like to be on video. I don't want to interact with customers. Let me just pin stuff to a show, have no video, no sound, and I'll just chat with them in the comment section. Initially, knee-jerk reaction for me, I was like, why? That totally removes the aspect of doing a Posh show, the interaction between your customers. But at the same time, one of the things that I've thought about is there is no subtitles when people are running a show. So if someone is working and can't have the sound on, what if you described a flaw on this item and someone didn't see it, but they wanted to bid on an item, so they bid on an item, then they got the item and they're like, hey, this has a flaw on it, I didn't want that. And it's like, yeah, well, I explained that in the show, you must have not heard that. That's where there might be frustrations. Then also the aspect of people that are hearing impaired, maybe can't hear the items being talked about. If there was a silent auction happening and the host was able to essentially explain through subtitles, through comments, maybe there would be a market that we could reach that would help people in that way. Because I want to see what it is that I'm purchasing. I want that interaction in that sort of capacity. So maybe if they do decide to approve the silent auction method, maybe we could have the photo like zoomed in, like they can click on the item and the item is shown. Maybe they can have video in advance that they could click through. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. I'm really curious to see what Poshmark says about silent auctions. They need to come out with some sort of statement. They need to say yes or no. Again, this was something that in comparison to Whatnot started to see people do this and they were like, immediately no. Immediately no. This is not what we're doing. I'm like, fair enough. You know what you want. All right, so your show is scheduled. Congratulations. That is the first step into getting your Posh show ready. The next thing you need to do is begin to add your items. There's two different methods that you can do this. As I mentioned, did you pull old stale inventory that you've already had in your closet, but now you've got it hanging up, getting ready to showcase for the show? Or did you just go thrifting? Did you just get a pallet of stuff and you're hanging it up for the first time that has never seen the light of day on the internet? If you are pulling items that you've had in your Poshmark closet, you can actually search for those items. The easiest way for me is to like search all of the items in my store first, share them to the top of my closet. So then when I am adding the listings into my show, I'm not having to like search for it for a long time. The quick list is a new feature that they just came out with a couple weeks ago, which has already streamlined the game for my husband and I, which I love. When you go to the quick list area, you will be able to put in the title, you'll be able to put in what the item is, so the category, and you can put in the size. The nice thing about the category is you don't actually have to do both drop-down boxes. So you can say it's a women's top and you don't need to go any further with that. I kind of like that because for a while I was like, gosh, how do I explain this item? Like it's knee-high boots, or it's like, it's a midi length, but that's not a category. You can just say women's dresses and then explain the rest later in the show. That doesn't allow you to add a photo. So you can go live with a quick list and that's perfectly fine, but you cannot add your photos when you're doing the quick list unless you go back in later. So typically this is how we've streamlined our process, my husband and I. I will do the quick lists because I'm faster with typing. I know what the item, how to describe it well. He's done this before too, don't get me wrong, but I'm faster when it comes to doing that. So I'll be by our clothing rack and I'm like, this is an Anthropologie sweater, this is the size, this is the category, boom, it's done. He will come back in through the closet and now he's seen all the quick lists at the top with no photos. He will say, okay, this is number 150. I'm gonna grab this item. I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna edit that listing in the store right now. And then I'm gonna replace the cover photo that Poshmark added in and I'm gonna put the photo of the item. He only takes one photo unless there's a flaw. We do like to photograph that as well. Just again, to cover our bases and helps for security, more for the return aspect, just making sure that everyone understands we're disclosing that there is a flaw with the item. Do I put in stock photos? Sometimes. Do I do more research about items? Sometimes. It depends on the type of product that I'm doing and what kind of show I'm going to be doing. If I'm hoping that I'm going to get more of a premium price for the items that I am selling, I will put in a little bit more effort. I'll say this is a Lafayette 148 blazer. It retails for $350, but unless I've done the research to do that, I'm not going to state that. I might say this is something that retails typically around this range, but if you want to do that, you can absolutely do it. Just know that the more time you're having to prep for a show, the less shows you'll probably be able to do weekly because there is a lot of time in the beginning to get your show set up. One of the new features that Poshmark just came out with that I am thrilled to see is liking an item. So for my shows, I like to go in order. It keeps a flow, it creates a proper expectation, and my customers have very much expressed over the month that we have been doing our shows that they love that we go in order. There's not a lot of dead air saying, okay, what next item should we run? Not saying that you should or should not do one way or another. It's just more of this is the feedback that I've received from my customers. They don't like the dead air. It takes a little bit more time. They want to keep moving with items and I want to respect that. So now if someone comes in and says, I would like to see number and it's like at the very end, I let people know, hey, I'm so glad that you like that item. You can actually like it now if you have updated your app. If not, go ahead and go onto the computer and go into the show and you can like any of the items that you're interested in. Once they do go live, you'll get a notification on your phone that says this is ready for bid. And then you can come back if you're jumping from different shows or whatnot. So it helps release the customers not to have to stay there for a long period of time. They can jump around into different shows and see if they like anything else, but meanwhile be able to go back when that item does go live. One of the things that's been a recent update as well that I do want to state, because even I didn't know about this until recently, I'm going to read it verbatim off their website. So adding listings to your show before it gets started has an opportunity for people to shop your live before you actually go live. So that's kind of nice if someone is at a event or they're working, and maybe they can spend more time like on their lunch break looking at the show and it's like, yeah, I want to like all these items. That just gives people an opportunity to be maybe more interactive, or more people be on your show when you do go live. So the sooner you can get your show scheduled, the better. And honestly, both Whatnot and Poshmark, I would say that that's a bonus to do that. Now though, available, not for sale, and dropping soon listings are eligible to add into the auctions. Prior, it was only not for sale, and then I think the dropping aspect. They just recently added in the available. The pro and con for that is if you do have something that you're planning to have in a show, if you keep it available, the item can sell before the show. That might be a positive to you because it might end up selling for more than what the item you were planning to start the bidding at. It could be a downside because it's like, okay, now I got to find an item to replace that with. So you do whatever you want to do in that regard. I just wanted to make that little footnote that that is something that is available at this point. Okay, the day has finally come for you to go live. You have loaded your store, you are ready to go. Here are some tips that have worked for me when I go live to help you have a better experience. Let's call this our live etiquette 101 portion of this video. So some of the different supplies that I use when I'm going live. Number one is a ring light. Now I will preface this by saying the first start of this video, I was actually filming right in front of one of our French doors that has a window, and I prefer sunlight, to be honest. I really enjoy the sunlight. The problem with sunlight, especially this time of year, is there's not much of it. And so to try to make your shows around sunlight is rather difficult. If you do have a time that works best for you, or maybe you have a room that is all windows that you can always film in, then I would say don't worry about getting a ring light. But if you're someone like me who would like to go live in the morning, would like to go live in the evening, have different variations of opportunity, having a ring light is really handy. Another aspect to a ring light that I think is also beneficial is one that you can dim down. So my very first ring light that I got was just a switch on. So it was like the light was on, the light was off. This one that I'm using right now actually dims. The benefit to that is when you have an item, and I don't think I have any in like this loaded show, maybe this piece. Sometimes when you put it up to the screen, it changes the way that the film looks. It also starts to not look true to color. So if I can have an opportunity to just go like this and dim it down a little bit, and I'm like, okay, no, this is more true to color, that really helps when I am going live because I can just very quickly change that dial with the lighting. Another thing that I always honestly consider is what's the overhead light. So like the overhead light in this room has more of that like yellow hue to it, whereas the ring light is more of a white light. So paying attention to that is just as specific as if you were hanging it up against the wall and you were photographing the item. Is it true to the color, or are you going to have to describe the piece a little better because it's actually purple but it's showing really blue, if you know what I mean. Another thing that I personally do in my show is have a ruler not too far away, because then I can go like this if someone says what is the pit to pit, and I've got this little hook here. And obviously you can tell right now that this room is set up for Christmas, but if someone said, hey, what is the pit to pit on this item? I can quickly grab the item, I can hang it right here, they can see me doing it. I can then use this, which I like one that's like this, not one that's like wrapped around someone's neck. Not anything bad about that, but again, like trying to keep it nice and straight, sometimes that's harder to do. I don't know, some people might like that a lot better, but it makes it really easy for me just to go like this and then tell someone what the pit to pit is, or the length of it, something like that. These are also the numbers that we use. I kind of want a new one because these paper ones are starting to rip, but I haven't decided to go with the ones that I'm seeing on Amazon, only because it gives me LuLaRoe vibes and I'm not for that. Two other supplies that I use in my shows, well actually I should say three, is one, a clothing rack, two, velvet hangers, and three, pants hangers. So the clothing hangers that I typically use, I actually have some more variety in this show, which is not typical, but it was based on the inventory that I was using. The first one are these, and if I haven't said it already, all of the items that I use and I'm talking about in this video will be in the description below, so take a look at those links if they are pieces that you would like to purchase yourself. I love these. They're nice and structured. Specifically, I really like that you can clip on them and they're more of a metal. It's just a lot more durable. I haven't had any issues with these ones. These ones are a little pricier, but they're gonna last longer. This is the hanger that I use. I like these because they are thinner. The velvet on them, specifically like for this kid show that I did, is really nice because it really makes the fabric like stay in one place. Also, like Free People, when they have more of a slouchy like shoulder top, it allows me to put the item where I want it on the hanger and it will stay put most of the time. So I love using this, and I wanted to keep something cohesive, so we decided to go with gray hangers because after a while these cream ones start to collect a lot of like fur and dust and just stuff, and so they look dirty and I don't like that. I'm being picky though at this point. The other thing, and we have tried out a variety, gosh, how many clothing racks have we used at this point? I think we've tried like 5 different styles of clothing racks. The one that I like so far is this Z rack, and I'll do some footage right now showing what it looks like. It's very durable. It's really easy to move it around in a different room. So like this is our guest room and we've kind of converted it into a live room. Half and half. You really don't want to see what's behind you right now, just saying. But this clothing rack is nice because we can move it into one of the other rooms, hang stuff up on it, and it's like a really narrow hallway, and the way that the Z is on the bottom really helps it turn around corners, which I really like. So this is the one that we've been using. Another one that I enjoy, and I'll put that one in the description as well, because it's shorter, but the ends like go out longer. So if you wanted to have a larger show, you do have the ability to like expand the clothing rack without the whole like pole being that wide at the bottom, if that makes sense. Some things that I've done for like decoration purposes that were pretty affordable, we're getting these floating racks, acrylic floating racks, and I believe pretty much everything I've gotten has been on Amazon. So this will be really easy for you guys to take a look at. Except for that, I actually got this at Target like years ago, and so I like to have that there. Regardless of what selling platform I'm doing a live sale on, it's always easy just to point up to there and let people know where they can find me on social media. And sometimes I've ran like deals, and so I'll put that up there, but more times than not, that's pretty much what has been in the back of the majority of my shows. Something else that I really love, and now I know a lot of you probably have like Alexa or have the Google Pixel, I think is what it's called, but I got this, I think it was Prime Day, got this super affordable, and I connect this with my iPad so that way the music does not interfere with me going live. I've had people before where they try to play music at the same time that they're streaming on their phone, and it interferes with the sound, it causes glitches, and so I just love having this attached to a completely different device. It doesn't interfere in the process. And the other thing that I've noticed is people, when they don't like the song that's playing and they are connected to like an Alexa or something like that, they're like yelling at their Alexa like skip, and it just, again, the fluidness of the show just seems very broken up. Now what we're about to go live, there are 2 different styles that I've seen people do. It's not one way or the other. It's not this is the best way and this is the wrong way. It's just what is your preference and what do you feel most comfortable with. For me, I have everything numbered in order, so that way I am going just from front to back. It makes it super seamless when I am running. But then at some point, if I do get closer to the end and there's still items that haven't sold and more people are coming into the show, I will say, if you want me to rerun anything, let me know. Another way that people do live sales is they go by request the whole entire show. This is very beneficial when you only have a handful of people in the room, or if you are aware that there are so many people going live at that time and maybe there's other shows that could be enticing. You tell people, hey, what is the item that you want me to run? I'll do that for you really quick and you can jump out. Kind of the downside, in my opinion, to that is maybe someone later might have wanted that piece, but they weren't in the room at the same time to bid, and maybe that one person was just in at that point. So I don't know, philosophy wise for me, I'm like, it would be better to have multiple people in the room that are interested in that item. For example, I will do Nike shows, or I'll have Lululemon and I'll promote Lululemon, but then someone will come in and I'll have the Lululemon like scattered all through the clothing rack, and they'll be like, I want number 1, number 50, number 75, and number 99. And I was like, you literally are picking every single Lululemon piece. I am not doing that. If that is the only thing that's gonna bring people into this room, I'm not selling it all within the first 5 minutes. So that is kind of one of the other things that I like to do to try to stay in order, is to help kind of people go, I gotta go back into that show so I can see when that item is selling. Yes, you do have the potential of them missing that item. Hopefully the heart feature that Poshmark now has allows people to get that notification of when the item goes live in time. But that's kind of my safety net for just staying in order. And also with our shows, it just really keeps a good flow. Something else about just nice etiquette, like I was mentioning about the sound, it is kind of nice to have a little bit of music in the background. One of the things that I saw someone do as a trick that I've done it ever since is I don't keep the speaker like right behind the camera or like right here, because if the sound is coming right here, it's really hard for me to hear and I feel like I'm like yelling at the camera. One of my friends put it on the floor. So I typically have this speaker and it's like on the floor in the other corner. That way it's not loud to you, it's not loud to me, but it brings like a really nice depth of like music in the room, and I am all about that. Another thing about just nice etiquette when you are going live is smile. That sounds so insanely simple and probably something that's like, well, duh, Ashley. But I have seen so many people not do it. And something else for that matter is when you're about to start an auction, think very closely about what you're going to start that item for. If you were to start that item and that item sells for exactly what you started it for, are you going to be disappointed? If the answer is yes, then do not start it at that number. And I know it's like, well, easier said than done, Ashley. Like, I need to attract more people in. And sure, go ahead, do $3 starting bids on Poshmark. That's the lowest that you can go in shows. If you're trying to gain an audience, let customers find you, but make sure that that cost of goods for those pieces are relatively low, because if something sold for $3, it's $2 and like 90 something cents for fees. You basically just lost money on that item for selling for $3. Like, that makes 0 sense to do something like that on a regular basis. You're going to continue to lose money. Do an intermix of shows. Do some that are like lower end, but then sometimes throw in shows that's like, I'm going to start this item at $15 because, hey, guess what? This retails for $49. That's expensive. All right, so 15 is a steal. I'm still making money. They're still enjoying a really good deal, and everyone wins. If you do decide to take some risks and items sell for less than what you are anticipating it, do not go, all right, here's the next item. Like, the tone, the vibe, the feel, you're gonna make a customer feel guilty that they just got the item for the price that they did. And I've seen it happen before. This is why I'm saying it. It's kind of like that warning that you see on a hairdryer and you're like, why is this something that's being said? It's because someone did it at one point, so it has to be said. Like, find some sort of statement to say like that to keep the flow going, staying positive, and letting the customer feel good about their purchase. But then know, okay, food for thought, I need to start items higher because these are not going for what I want them to be going for. Like, you can ebb and flow in a show. It is totally okay. But having those terms and just being very comfortable with saying things like that really helps. Something else that I'll do while the time is going down is if I know something sells for like $120, I started it at like maybe 15, it's gone up to like $20 at this point. I've got 10 seconds left. I'm like, wow, you're gonna get $100 off this item right now if you purchase this item. That is insane. Way to go. And just typically, if there's new people that just popped into the room and they hear that, suddenly a couple more bids come in. And now you're up to $30 versus $20. So doing little things like that can also help. Another thing that you want to get ready for when you are live is questions coming into your show. They are going to be all over the place. And to be honest, I've actually had some where people are hitting on me and my like husband is like, nope, you're done. Not many on Posh. Typically it's on the other platform, but I still have had customers say that that is something that's happened to them before. Or one time I had a customer say that they were in another live show and someone came in to the person's show and was like, wow, your outfit is hideous. You are gonna have to have a poker face. Like you are live cameras, action, put on that face. Get ready to potentially get slapped in the face. What are you gonna do in those situations? Get ready for it. If it never happens, good for you. But if it does happen, you are equipped. You know how you're gonna handle the situation. If someone says something like that, maybe have some people that you are comfortable with that are gonna be in your show so they can remove those types of comments. Maybe you wanna ignore it. Maybe you want to engage in it. But understand that lights, camera, action, the minute that you are live, your customers are watching the face behind your brand. How do you want to be represented? Because if you start throwing a fit, if you start to get angry, if you start to get snappy back, people are gonna know that that might be how you handle them with customer service. That might be how you handle them with returns. Is the face on camera the same person that they're gonna have to deal with later? Yes. So if you're not able to present yourself in a manner that's very professional or entertaining or just who you want to be represented as, then don't go live, because you're gonna have things that are gonna surprise you in the middle of a show, and you're gonna have to understand how to handle it. Also, a food for thought tip is have water really close by, because you don't realize it, but when you're talking for 2 hours, oh my gosh, your throat gets parched. You feel raspy, like, and the other thing, I don't know why this is the case, but when I'm pulling so many pieces and like I'm by this ring light, I see all the little like frillies, like all the fuzz and all the like dust that's just blowing in the air. And so I think after a while, I'm like, gosh, I can really feel that in my throat. So having water really close or just any sort of drink close by is really gonna help while you are live. Obviously, like don't drink so much that you feel like you've got to go pee in the middle of a show. Also, don't freak out if like something like that ever occurs, or if you have to go and leave all of a sudden because, you know, an emergency occurred. Know that stuff like that could potentially happen. Don't stress over it. Don't worry about it. Another thing that I will say about going live, especially after I just mentioned the whole lights, camera, action, like how are you going to present yourself when you're in front of people? Also, don't take yourself so seriously, which probably sounds insanely counter to the whole professionalism part that I was telling you about. But for example, I have been in the process of like describing an item before, and I will stutter over my words, or I will like have a total brain fart and forget how to describe a piece. It's like I've said Sherpa so many times, but gosh darn it, what is that term for this piece right now? And sometimes if you're just very candid about that, people will comment, oh, it's Sherpa. It's like, that's it. That was what I was thinking of. Or like I've tried to say something before and fumble over my words. I'm like, okay, hold on, take two. Let's do that again. Like when I do stuff like that, it's an entertainment aspect that I feel like people enjoy. And then it also just lets us all laugh about how silly I was in that moment. And that is something that I feel like has really helped with our growth and has really allowed us to build a community in our Posh shows of customers, because they love to hang out with us. They're like, you guys are hilarious. You guys are so funny. And I was like, guys, this is us on a daily basis. Like, welcome to our world. I think I've even said that before. I'm like, now you get to see a little taste of what I deal with as my husband and I are laughing about something like so silly. And our kids will pop in sometimes and they'll wave, and our customers love that. So as much as your lights, camera, action, gotta be professional, I would say take the professionality when you're talking about your items, when you're handling the people who are rude in the comment section. But if you stumble over something, like just laugh it off and move on to the next piece. Don't go, oh my gosh, I totally screwed that up. Like, I'm so sorry guys. Like, I did not mean to do that. Like, don't apologize. It's okay. We all make mistakes. Just keep going. You're gonna be fine. Lastly, probably the one other thing that I would say about going live is having to repeat yourself on a regular basis and your outro. So it sucks, but you will constantly see when you are live, like the same audience that was there when you first went live versus the audience that you have at the end could be entirely different. So what did you say at the beginning of your live that maybe the audience at the end needs to hear? I have found myself saying like, hey, we're going in order. That's one of the biggest ones. Like, hey, we're gonna go in order, you guys. And yes, we do bundle shipping, which we'll get into that soon. And then like 5 minutes later, hey, do you bundle ship? Yes, I do bundle ship. You're gonna have to say and repeat yourself over and over again. If someone pops in and goes, can you run this item? Don't go, ugh, I've already said, we go in order. Bundle. Like, again, do you see the tone? Do you see how? Make sure you know how you're going to handle the audience. And if you don't want to continue to repeat yourself on a regular basis, maybe have an iPad or a laptop close by so you can just copy paste like the same comment over and over again into the show, or have someone, they don't have to be with you. They could very well be like at a completely different place. That's just hanging out on the show, but also pasting a similar comment over and over again. That way you don't have to stop your show. Maybe it helps with your time, whichever you prefer. And then the last thing I would say is outro. We do typically try to end a live very much in the same aspect that we would end a YouTube video. So for me, I go, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I'm so thankful that you guys were here. I'm gonna take a few moments just to allow any requests to come in if you want to have us run anything. What that means is if you go into this little square right here where the number is, go in and see anything that says not for sale is actually what we can still run. So just take a moment there. But guys, I'm so thankful that you hung out with me. We have our next show on, what day do you have your next show? Make sure you have that scheduled before you go live, because the art of promotion is you're constantly promoting what is next. Meanwhile, you have already set the standard that going to my store, do you want me to rerun anything? Typically when I'm doing that outro, people will go number 56. I'm like, okay, let's go grab number 56 real quick. Hey guys, we're at the end of our show. If you are just tuning in, I'm gonna rerun this piece right now. If you are just tuning in and you're interested in pieces, go ahead and take a look in the store. Again, you're gonna have to kind of keep repeating yourself, but it helps keep a flow. It helps kind of bring those last few sales in, and already the people that were with you for the majority of the show, they now got the outro. They know where to find you. They wanna be in your next show, so they've already got that one bookmarked. It really does help, I think personally for us, to allow us to keep having people that are coming back to our shows on a daily basis, which I really honestly love. They're a great customer base, and I feel like I have a little family that we've created over the last 2 months because of it. Part 3. And probably the most frustrating portion of this whole thing. So I've kind of gone into details before about Poshmark not allowing for bundle shipping. I mean, not allowing. They just don't have a automatic feature. So if someone purchases 5 pieces in my show, they have to pay $7.67 for each item. That really cuts into what people are willing to pay for the items. Like if something's retails for $25, they're not gonna pay $15 for the item because they know that they have to pay $7 in shipping. So I encourage people, hey, if you purchase 2 or more items in my show, don't worry about it. I am going to create a bundle for you later. Once you purchase that bundle, I will cancel all your individual orders. How does that look? Typically, we get all your items together. We're gonna take a photo. We're gonna create a listing that says your username, how many items you had, and then we'll put the price of whatever you paid for all the items in the show. Once you purchase that, that's when we're gonna cancel all of your individual orders. I set that kind of like step out because sometimes when I just assume that people know what the bundling means, they're like, I'm new to this. And I typically have at least one customer that's like that in every single show. So when we are officially done with the show, take a deep breath. Sometimes even walk away from the room, like just leave the room. If you do not want to do a show, like do anything else, if you are fried, take a break. Get that potty break, get some food in, and then maybe come back to this later. So what I like to do, and again, like I said, I prefaced this in one of my previous shows, but you can search by people's usernames. So if I go into my sales, I can look at what was the last item that sold, or maybe what's the first item that sold. Okay, number 50. Well, let's search 50 in my sales. Okay, so-and-so is the person who purchase that item. Let's search that person's username and see if they purchased more than one item. Yes, okay, they purchased 67, they purchased 50, and they purchased 60. So now I'm gonna make a little spot right here. We're gonna take a photo of their items. My husband, typically when you search their username, it pulls up all of the items like right by each other. So he'll screenshot that so that way there's proof showing hey, this is the item that you purchased because your name is right here, and here's how much the item sold for. So you don't have any questions about, well, I thought that I bought stuff and it was less money. No, it literally says right here in our sales tab, here's how much the item sold for. We put those 2 photos in a listing, and then we typically will describe the items in the description and then put the listed price as what they paid all together for everything. When they purchase that one bundle, now they're only paying one of the shipping costs. So that's why that's beneficial, and that's why we take the step to do that. Also, a little like note here, one of the ways that I don't want to say have gotten away with it, but right now with the fee structure of Poshmark, well, there's fee structure period, I don't think it's going to change, is anything that's under $15, you pay $2 and something for your fee. If it goes over $15, you pay 20% in commission. So I've been okay with having items that I'm starting at $8 or $10, because if something sold for 10 and if something sold for like 5, well, now I've gone over that $15 threshold once I do bundle their items together, and I end up making more money when I do my bundles. Yes, it takes me more time to manually do bundles, but I'm making more money in the long run. Once they do update this feature and they automatically do have the bundling happening while the show is going, I think for us, we're gonna have to change the model of what inventory we're gonna have in our shows. Like majority of the stuff, we're gonna have to probably start around that $15 mark, because paying $3 means you're paying 30% in commission, and that makes absolutely no sense for us. But just a little note for you guys, if you're like wary about, do I want to do bundle or do I not, or like manually do that offer for people, it helps because you actually make more money. Just letting you know. My husband will typically create all the bundles for people, and then I will go into our Posh store after the listings are created. I will share their listing to their bundle section of Poshmark. I'll send them a message saying, here's your bundle, purchase this, we'll cancel your orders. Typically the minute it gets shared into their bundles, they get a notification on their phone, so they're able to purchase and just be done. And then from that point, I then go back into the My Sale section, I search for that username, and I cancel all the individual orders. Footnote to that too is Poshmark just recently came out with a new feature. So in the drop down section, which I asked them to do like a year ago, so I'm so thankful that now they're doing it, but they now have a tab when you say cancel item. Previously it would say will bundle with something else, don't have the item anymore, I think item is damaged, or other, something like that. I think there was only 3 prompts, and I told them like a year ago, you need to have something that says buyer requested for cancellation, because typically I would just put other and I would say like buyer requested this. Well, now they don't want us using the will bundle with something else. They actually did do a drop down that says buyer requested, and they want us to use that if we are creating bundles and then canceling those individual orders. I saw that in an email from beta, from the like Posh Show beta email. So that is something that I want to relay to you guys, so you guys are doing it properly. Also, something else that I do want to mention, I totally forgot to talk about this, but when you are doing a sale, and if you do decide that you want to do like a silent auction aspect, understand that if someone pops out of a show and they come back into a show, they do not see the comment thread. So for example, I popped into a silent auction earlier today because I just kind of wanted to, periodically I pop in just to see how things are going, and the person wasn't running anything and the chat was blank. The person had 5 people in their show, and I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you live? In fact, I actually thought that maybe they were live just to promote their items because they had music playing in the background. I'm like, are you even by your computer? Like, what are you doing? And I just put in the comment, I was like, are you running anything? And she was like, oh yeah, I just said that I'm taking requests. I was like, okay, well, just so you know, when people pop into your show, if you haven't made a comment since they've been in your room, they don't see that comment. And she's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. Yeah. So if you're wanting to do silent auctions, or if you're wanting to add things into the comment section, understand that that number at the top that shows people coming in and out of the shows, it changes like every second. So don't expect that the people that are in your room right now have heard what you've said or the comments that you've posted, because they do not see it at all. Okay, let's get back to the shipping portion. Jeff was actually showing me how he creates the listings. I know I just explained it, but I think it'd be really great to actually see him do it for you guys. So I'll give you that demonstration really quick. That way you are more equipped to do your bundle of shipping until Poshmark decides to actually come out with this feature.
Okay, so the number's 42.
Yeah.
I put it in here and I find that item. So then I find that item and I go to here on searching and I put in Karen Tribble. and then I search.
So
okay,
they
so
have
she's got three items. So now I go pull those 3 items.
So then 42, which is this one.
44.
Which is actually right here.
Right, and then I think the other was 35, which is right here. So then I pull
Perfect,
those 3 items.
Yeah.
Take the numbers off and I create the bundle. Here I am, I've pulled up this person's. I screenshot it, and then I go to sell.
Oh, that's easy.
And then I come over here, I take a picture of the bundle, click next, and then I'm gonna add the other photo
of their items
from the screenshot.
Okay.
And I move it to where it's got those.
Okay.
Next, so I've got all those items in there, and then I just start putting in the details. I put the person's name, create the bundle,
Right.
and then list it for sale.
Okay. For those who have stayed to this point of the video, I am curious. Do you enjoy Posh shows, whether it is to be a customer or are you interested in being a seller? Put it down in the comment section because I'd really love to have this conversation. As I've mentioned before, I know that there are some people that are truly passionate about adding live sales to their regimen of being a reseller. And then there are other people that are very passionate about never adding it to their regimen of how to sell items online. I just am so curious. Every time I ask this, I'm very enlightened with the different thoughts and their perspectives around it. And it just kind of helps me see what the dynamic is across the board for people, whether it's customers or sellers. For me personally, we are going to continue to do this. It's a great way for my husband and I to do it together. We have a lot of fun with it. We really love the engagement in the shows. It is frustrating when you do a show and you spend so much time on a show and you make only a couple $100s, but sometimes like I would go days with 0 sales. So having a couple $100s in a day or even $100 in a day is definitely a win. And that would be maybe something that I would like to leave with this video for you is understand that it's going to take a minute for you to build this. Like I remember my first few shows on Whatnot, I showed my first 3 sales and I think like I didn't even hit over $400 in those first 3 shows. But man, I was ecstatic about making only a couple $100s in a show because it helped me see if I could make that much and I'm just starting, then I can make so much more. And it definitely still depends on the time of day you're going live. It depends on what days you're going live. It depends on the product. It depends on, did you load your show? Did you have pictures? How did you market it? There are a lot of things involved in that. And maybe you want me to do another video about that. If you would like that, also put that in the comment section of this video because I am constantly wanting to create content that will help you guys be successful with your reselling business. All right, guys, I'll see you next week. Bye.